What's up, everybody? Welcome back to LetsNot, and welcome back to another Pokemon Unite video. Alrighty guys, so what I wanted to do with this video, really what I'm setting out to do, is I wanted to make a held item tier list and a battle item tier list, but I wanted to focus specifically on ranked, right? So I wanted to take a look on high level rank play, and I wanted to take a look at what held items work best there and what held items will help you succeed most specifically in a rank setting, because I know that a number of other YouTubers, websites have created these tier lists, but a lot of them have not played ranked play or have made it very high in ranked play. So at this point, I have solo queued and climbed to about ultra rank, I think, in ranked play. So I'm pretty high up there. And I've seen a lot of different held items, and I've seen a lot of different people use held items. So I want to talk about what those held items are, what held items will give you the best chance at succeeding in ranked play at a high level. Now, just to keep in mind, there are going to be some items that are going to perform way better in quick play. So anytime that there's an item that is better for quick play or casual play that really helps you pub stomp, I'll talk about those items as well. All right. Let's go ahead and jump on into the video. Alrighty, so here we are, guys. I'm over here at this lovely tier maker tier list made by Pollux. So Pollux, thank you so much for putting this together. Alright, so the very first thing I want to talk about is I've kind of split these up and organized these in a way on kind of different categories for what the items do. So we've got items that do things when you score. We've got kind of the floatstone, which is unique all in itself. We've got a bunch of items that are focused here on dealing more damage. And then a bunch of items, actually the majority of items in this game, in some way affect survivability. So those are going to be the way that these items are kind of split up here in the way that we talk about them. And then finally, of course, the battle items, which again, we'll talk a little bit about these and where these play as well. But the very first thing that I want to talk about are going to be the scoring items. So you've got the Ao's cookie, you've got the weight, and you've got the specs. So what these are going to do is every time you score a goal, these are going to increase one of your base stats. So in the case of the cookie, max HP, the weight will increase attack, and then finally, of course, special attack here for the specs as well. So one thing I want to point out is in ranked play, at least high level ranked play. So again, keep in mind, I'm only talking about high level ranked play. So like expert, veteran, I'm going to say veteran and above, right? Up through master, is when this starts to matter. So these items are just not going to be great in high level ranked play. And the reason for that is because in high level ranked play, there will be times, especially as a laner, where you just won't score for the first few minutes of the game. And that's totally fine. That's totally normal. Because you basically, in high level ranked play, you're going to be locked in a stalemate a vast majority of the time, where you basically just have to keep trying to force your opponent to make a move or force them to overextend so your jungler can come in and kill, right? A lot of this is a very temperamental game with you just pushing up inch after inch until you finally get an opportunity to score. But because of this, there will be games where you score very, very few times. The overall score at the end of the game will be very low, and the game will really just come down to whoever beats Zapdos and manages to get those scores in. So because of that, because you're not scoring a ton of times, all of these items are going to fall into the same category, which is going to be C tier. They all just don't do enough because, again, there will be games that are just very low scoring games, and these are going to be very, very common the higher up you go in ranked. So because of that, these items are just not going to really be great for ranked. You are almost always going to have a better option to run over these items. Now, for low level ranked and all of the quick play games, right? The 3v3s, the 4v4s, just the quick play, these items are probably A tier or S tier, because it's just, if you want to pub stomp, if you know you're better, you know you can get these quick scores in, which a lot of times in these casual games you can, you'll just be able to snowball like crazy, because you can just keep increasing your stats by such a ridiculous number of times that these items become amazing. But again, for high level ranked play, you really won't see a whole lot of these, because opportunities to score will be few and far in between. All right. So, and I know this is probably going to throw a lot of you guys for a loop, so I do apologize. Now, if you have a dedicated team and you're still just pub stomping in Masters, like the one team that plays in Masters, you probably will see these items on their sets, because again, they're basically just quick playing at that point. All right, the next item I want to talk about is going to be the floatstone. So I'm immediately going to drop this up in S tier. So what you'll notice is that my category for S tier and A tier as we go throughout this video will be that the item has to be good every single game, no matter what. It has to give you value. and it has to be at least decent on every single Pokemon that would want to use it, right? Specifically being that would want to use it, right? So obviously a physical attacker versus special attacker, stuff like that. But Floatstone is going to be the only item in this game that's actually going to affect your movement speed, and because of that, it is extremely valuable. It's going to be best used on anybody that's going to be rotating lanes a lot or jungling, so speedsters, this is an absolute must if you guys are playing a bunch of speedsters, so Gengar, Zeraora, all of those Pokemon that are just be constantly running between lanes, Talonflame, Absol, this is going to be a key item for them to run. So overall, fantastic item, but at the end of the day, really anybody can can get bonus from extra movement speed. The way that the item is going to work is that when you're out of combat, you're going to get a % increase in movement speed. Even when you're in combat, though, you are going to get a slight movement speed increase. So again, this item is going to be great for chasing, for picking fights, for disengaging. In a MOBA, you really can't underestimate how valuable speed really is. So again, this item is going to be just key in any single one of those engagements. So Floatstone is definitely worthy of the S tier. All right. The next thing that I'm going to talk about here is the Energy Amplifier, and I'm going to go ahead and toss Energy Amplifier to a B tier. So Energy Amplifier, the way that it works is after you use your Unite move, you get bonus damage, right? So you get bonus damage for a short time. So you basically, after using Unite move, you'll get a big chunk, like 20-something%, I think at max level, of damage you'll do from your basic, or from your attack and your special attack. So basically allows you to really kind of push and deal a ton of extra damage. Here's the problem. Any move or any item that really only works when your Unite move goes off kind of puts you in a weird spot, because the vast majority of the time it's obviously going to be doing nothing. But when it does work and it works well, it can swing an entire team fight or Zapdos fight in your favor, which is absolutely huge, right? So again, there will be games where you get almost no value out of this because you're going into a team fight behind and it's not enough to make up the difference. Or let's say you use your Unite move and you immediately get killed right after, so you don't get any of the additional attack. So there will be times where this does absolutely nothing, and because of that, it's just not good enough to be A tier or S tier. But for certain niche Pokemon like Mr. Mime, is a good example, or maybe even something like Zeraora or Pikachu, like there will be times where you can get extra value out of this. Cramorant's another great example, but the vast majority of the time, it's almost like, well, could I just be running something better, right? So we'll keep this one in B tier because, again, my conditions for S and A is that it has to give you value every single game, and there's just possibility that you don't get value out of the Energy Amplifier, right? All right, next thing I'm going to talk about here is Wise Glasses. Simplest item in the game to understand. It's going to increase your base special attack, and it's going to give you a percentage increase to special attack, right? Obviously, this is only good on a special attacker, for obvious reasons, but any special attacker can really use this effectively. I'd say the supports probably don't want to use as much, like Eldegoss and Wigglytuff. Mr. Mime actually could use this because Mr. Mime can do an insane amount of damage, but the other two supports, their focus really isn't on dealing damage. But again, I'm going to go ahead and throw this in the A tier just because it's such a solid item. It's not really quite good enough to be S tier because not every Pokemon in the game can use this effectively. It is just limited to the special attackers, Venusaur, Gengar, Alolan Ninetales, Cramorant. So all the special attackers that can use this super well do get a lot of value out of this. So if you are going to be a laning special attacker, it's always going to be good. You always having more attack means you're going to be able to secure more kills, right? It's never going to be a wasted item slot on a dedicated special attacker. So Wise Glasses definitely earns its spot in the A tier. All right, so kind of the counterpart to the Wise Glasses is the Muscle Band. However, Muscle Band's a little bit better for physical attackers. And the reason for that is because Muscle Band will help everybody, even special attackers. And let me explain why. So in this game, Muscle Band increases your basic attack damage. And it also increases the base attack speed, which is going to be good on everybody because base attacks, the first two base attacks your Pokemon will use, will be using your attack stat, even if you're a special attacker, right? And the third attack, the boosted attack, right? So like in the case of Cramorant where he shoots out a fish, or Mr. Mime where he kind of throws everybody up into the air, like those attacks will use special attack if you're a special attacker. But all your other, basic attacks, so I guess like 66% of your basic attacks will still be using your attack stat. So while dedicated special attackers may not be getting a ton of extra value out of the Muscle Band, it still does give them some value, which just barely puts it in front of the Wise Glasses as overall versatility and overall usability. So again, definitely a solid item. You should really be running this. It can be run on any physical attacker without a second question. Does extra percentage based damage based on your opponent's HP. It's just a fantastic item. It does so much extra damage, and it gets even more deadly on Pokemon that boost their base attacks, right? So like a great example is Machamp. He has a build that makes his basic attacks do more damage, which just makes this a fantastic item. So again, definitely worthy of the S tier. And just like what I said earlier, right? Anything in the A tier and the S tier have to be good 100% of the time. You will never go into a match and not get value out of any of the items right now in S tier and A tier. There's no conditions to make them work. They just work, right? Next thing, Scope Lens. Fantastic item. It gives you crit rate, crit damage. Every single Pokemon in the game can value and benefit from those, right? Now, I guess the supporters, you probably would find something better because their primary goal is not to deal damage. But again, especially on Pokemon that have crit built into their rates, looking at you, Absol, the Scope Lens is an absolute must. This thing is fantastic on Absol, and just good really on any attacker. Any attacker can value from crit rate and crit damage, and sometimes a lucky crit can be the difference between winning or losing a fight. So just like the other items into S tier and A tier, this thing will always be getting value. So the Scope Lens, I think, in my opinion, definitely deserves a place in S tier. You could argue that it's not the item that you would necessarily run around in a certain Pokemon, so maybe it deserves to be in the A tier instead. But overall, again, I think this item is worthy enough of its spot here in the S tier, right? It's just such a solid item. You're going to get value out of every single match you're into and just deal extra damage, right? So sounds good to me. All right, next item that we're going to talk about here is going to be the Shell Bell. So I'm actually going to throw this one in the A tier. So the Shell Bell is an interesting item. So when you deal damage, it's going to heal you based off of your special attack. Because it heals based off the special attack, it's not quite good enough to be in the S tier, but it also does a couple other cool things. So it also increases your base special attack and your cooldown. So your special moves cooldown, which means overall you're going to be able to get off more moves and get a little bit of HP back. So the way that this works is at bare minimum, you'll get 45 HP back. So like if, for example, if you're running this on a physical attacker like Machamp, you still do get a tiny bit of HP leech back. I guess it's not technically leech, but you do get a tiny bit of healing back, but it's not quite good enough to where you'd ever consider running it over a muscle band or a float stone or a Scope Lens or something like that. So again, it's a good item, but I'd only recommend running it on special attackers. Just like the Wise Glasses, but it is going to be one of the best items you can run 99% of the time on a special attacker. So do I recommend running the Shell Bell? Absolutely. If you're running a special attacker, if you're running a laner, a load of Ninetales, that extra HP can keep you alive. The extra special attack that you get out of it is fantastic. And because it spells off of special attack, for the high special attack characters like Alolan Ninetales and Cramorant, and, of course, Pikachu, you get a bunch of HP back, which makes it a very solid item for offensive special attackers. Alrighty, so those are going to be the items that increase attack or damage in some way. Next things that we're going to talk about are going to be more survivability based. I guess Shell Bell's kind of survivability. That one's a little bit of a mix. So the first thing I want to talk about here is going to be the Assault Vest. And I really struggled on where to put this one for the longest time, but I'm actually going to put this in B tier. Now, I know if you've watched a lot of tier list videos or watched other people review this, they've probably put this much higher. But here's the thing. In high-level ranked play, I do not want a dead item slot. Ever, right? Because if I have a dead item slot, it means that in some way I have failed. I have failed to predict something, or I have failed to plan accordingly, right? So the reason that I put Assault Vest in B tier is because there is a chance that you can go into a game and it will do nothing. So the way that Assault Vest works is that when you're out of combat, you can get a shield up to about 15% of your max HP, where any special attack damage has to break through that shield first before you'll take damage. Now, here's the problem. In Pokemon Unite, you do not see the opponent's team when you're choosing your held items until after, right? And so until after you choose your Pokemon, your team, and your held items, then you get to see the opponent's team. So let me run something by you. You put Assault Vest on, you've got a max Assault Vest, you load in the game, and here's the opponent's team. They've got Absol, they've got Garchomp, they've got Machamp, they've got Cinderace, and they've got Zeraora. 5 physical attackers. You now have an item that is literally doing nothing. That item will do nothing for you all game, and it's a 100% complete waste of a slot, right? Which, to be fair, that's exactly kind of how it works in the normal Pokemon games too. So the way this item works in the normal Pokemon games is it raises up just your special defense, right? And the condition being you can't use moves, but that doesn't really matter. So again, it's it's a very risky play, but because when it does work, because like on the exact opposite flip side of that coin, right, it can be crazy good, right? If your opponent's team is a Lowland Ninetales, Gengar, all these other special attackers, Mr. Mime, then it's going to give you an insane amount of value. But because it can go into a game and do literally nothing the whole game, it's not good enough for ranked play, in my opinion, to be considered S or A tier. Because again, remember, for my S or A tier, it has to give you value 100% of the time, no matter what the conditions of the game are. And because Assault Vest can't do that, it unfortunately can perform no better than B tier. But when it does work, and most time it's going to work at least against some of your opponents, it works super well. But again, its value is directly dependent on how many special attackers there are on the opposing team, right? And if you are running it and you're laning against things that aren't special attackers, you should probably communicate with your team to switch lanes, right? So again, you have to play smart with it, and you have to get lucky. You have to hope your opponent's team has special attackers. Otherwise, it's, again, a complete dead slot. All right, next time I'm going to talk about, and it's going to be our 4th edition of the S tier, is the Focus Band. So Focus Band is incredible. It's incredible on anything that's going to run it. What it's going to do is it's going to increase your base defense and your base special defense, right? So already it's going to make you tankier, but the important thing that it does is it's actually going to heal you over 3 ticks for up to 14% of your lost HP. That's kind of confusing, but basically the way that this works is once your HP goes down to a certain threshold, you're going to start healing over the course of 3 seconds. Each of those 3 seconds, you're going to heal 14% of not your entire HP, but whatever your missing HP is, right? And again, that's going to course over 3 seconds, so it's going to get smaller and smaller unless you're actively being attacked, which happens a lot with the Focus Band. But what makes this so good is you can heal up like a third of your HP very, very quickly while you're getting attacked, and will just be able to get you out of so many nasty situations and literally save games, right? It'll be able, especially as laning, if you overextend, you can run away from the situation that you overextended yourself into and survive situations you would not normally be able to survive. Or during team fights, having that healing come in so you can deal more damage, get 1 or 2 extra kills out, survive with just a smidgen of HP. Focus Band is incredible. And because it's not tied to special attack or physical attack, rather it gives you defense and special defense, you can literally use it on anything. Really, the only things I probably wouldn't recommend Focus Band for would be the speedsters, just because their HP is so low anyway that you're probably not going to get value out of it. You're probably going to be either killing everything or dead anyway. So in those particular cases, maybe Focus Band doesn't give you enough value, but it's still not bad on those characters, right? And because it's not bad on anything, it definitely deserves its spot in the S tier as a way of surviving. All right, next thing we're going to talk about is going to be the Rocky Helm. So Rocky Helm is a fantastic defensive item. It's absolutely fantastic. So the way that it works is it's going to deal damage to anything that hits you up to a certain percentage, I think around 3 or 4% of the Pokemon that's hitting you's max HP. So why this item is so fantastic is because it gives Pokemon like Wigglytuff and Eldegoss, who can do 0 damage but have some survivability, a way of dealing damage back. Same thing with Slowbro and Snorlax. Every time you get hit, it will deal damage back. And again, it gives a passive way for these Pokemon that aren't focused on dealing damage to deal damage. So like Slowbro should be focusing on CCing the enemy with telekinesis. Snorlax, when he uses his ult, basically just falls asleep, right, and deals some damage over time. This increases that damage being reflected back to whoever's attacking you and gives you a way to really whittle down those opponents so that they can get into 1-hit KO range from your teammates, your attackers combos. So great item on support and defense. Not even a terrible item on all-rounders either, right? Like it stacks with Garchomp's Rough Scales, which kind of doubles its effect, and it grants max HP. So again, it's a really fantastic defensive item to run on your Pokemon, and probably one of the best items for defensive and all-rounders just in general, except maybe Lucario. I don't think Lucario needs it quite as much, but any of the bulkier Pokemon get a ton of value out of Rocky Helm. So it definitely deserves a spot in the A tier, and it will always be good because over the course of a match, you're always going to get hit. So you're always going to get value out of it, which means unlike the Assault Vest, it does deserve its place in A tier. All right, next we're going to talk about items that are going to be a little more niche, right? So we're going to talk about first the Scoring Shield. So this is another one that can be really good, but for the vast majority of time, at least in high-level ranked play, I'm going to actually toss this one into the C tier because, again, in high-level ranked play, scoring doesn't happen as often as it happens in quick play, right? There are going to be a lot of times where you're just stuck in these stalemates where you have max score, they have max score, orbs are dropping all over the ground because nobody's overextending enough for a jungler to come in and secure those KOs. So because there's less scoring, an item 100% based on scoring is obviously going to lose value, right? So again, this is probably better in quick play, where these quick scores where you jump in and try and get a score while somebody just overextends a little bit too far to the back or chases down an ad too far. Like, that's when this item is good. But in ranked play, unless your opponent's making just a ton of mistakes, which again could go for all of these C-level items, you're not going to see a lot of value out of the scoring shield. So unfortunately, it is going to be relegated to the C tier. All right, the next thing that I'm going to pop up here is the Unite Shield. I'm going to go ahead and toss this one right in the B tier here with our other Unite item that we have here, right? So the Energy Amplifier, because it does the same thing. It's only ever going to do anything the moment you use your Unite move. And the way that this is going to work is it's going to give your ally with the lowest HP a shield to help keep them alive, right? So on supports, Wigglytuff, Eldegoss, like this item's pretty good because you can keep your really frail Pikachus, your really frail Cinderaces alive and allow them to dish out maximum damage. But there will be times where you just pop this and it does nothing. Like, let's say, for example, you need to use your ult and none of your teammates are around. You just got zero value out of this, right? Maybe it was worth using your ult. Like, let's say you're Mr. Mime, right? You wanted to use your ult to make sure that you could kill something and make them drop, half of their stack of 50, right? Definitely valid to use your ult right there if that's your only means of killing it. But you just got no value out of your Night Shield. Had you had Wise Glasses on before, maybe you wouldn't even have needed to use your ult. So again, because there are times this gets zero value, it's not good enough to be A tier or B tier, but there are times where this can swing an entire team fight, which can lead to winning the game. So it's definitely not bad. Again, both the Unite items in ranked play aren't bad, but they're not quite good enough to make sure that you gain value all the time. And because there's conditions in which they will give you no value, unfortunately, we can rank them no higher than B. And then finally, the very first item you get in the game, Leftovers. It's just bad. It's just bad. I know this is going to make a lot of people upset, but it's just bad, man. There are so many ways to heal in this game, with Citrus Berry, with Focus Band being just better, or just recalling to base doesn't take that long. Like, this map isn't huge, so recalling to base to heal is not really that big of an issue, especially because like the 2 lanes will increase your speed when you go across them. You have the jump pad in the later half of the game. Like, Leftovers is just bad. It gives you a tiny bit of healing, a tiny bit of HP when you're not in fights, which means you can't be killing ads for it to work. You can't be in a fight with other players for it to work. It just never gives enough value. Really, on paper, it seems like something to be good on like a Snorlax or some other Pokemon, but at the end of the day, because Snorlax has Gluttony anyway, it's just never going to be good enough. There's almost always going to be a better item to run in this slot. So unfortunately for Leftovers, I'm going to have to say that Leftovers is left over in the F tier. Oof, that was a bad pun. Sorry for that one. But yeah, man, Leftovers, it just doesn't work. It just doesn't work well enough. In ranked play, you'll almost never see it, just because it doesn't do enough, right? A lot of these items have the power, even in B tier, to swing an entire game. Even the C tier items, if your opponent's making enough mistake and you can capitalize these in a ranked game, you'll just snowball. Leftovers, it sucks. It's just bad. All right, so again, sorry, it sucks that the worst item is literally the one that they give away to everybody for free in the beginning of the game. But I mean, in casual matches, for newer players who are learning the game, Leftovers can be good for that, because a lot of newer players don't know or understand when to recall to base. So again, if you're learning the game, if you're a newer player, like, that's where you start to get a little value out of Leftovers. And then once you learn that Leftovers is bad, and you move on to something else. All right, the final item here is a very niche item. It's going to be the experience share, and I'm going to drop this into C tier. It's not that it's like bad, it's just super niche. There's like so few Pokemon that want to run this. So for example, Wigglytuff and Eldegoss. Both of these Pokemon are 2 of the only Pokemon that should be running this, and they should be running this, right? So like, let's say for example, I'm an Eldegoss and I'm bottom laning with a Gabite, right? Or sorry, a Geibel. I want to make sure that Geibel is the one who gets all the finishes, gets all the kills, so that he's making sure that he levels up to Garchomp immediately. Because let's face it, Geibel and Gabite in this game, they suck, right? Garchomp is fantastic, but while he's evolving, he's just so bad. So you really only get to use all of Garchomp's power half the game. So as a support, I want to make sure that I get my Garchomp up to maximum power as quickly as possible. So I'm going to let him have all the kills. I'm just going to support him getting there. However, I don't want to fall too far behind on level, because in a MOBA, if I'm level 9 and you're level 11, that's a death sentence, right? So by falling behind a couple levels, it'll be horrible for me. So I want to make sure that I have the experience share. So while Geibel's getting all those kills and leveling up fast, I want to make sure that I'm not left completely in the dust. And that's where you use the experience share. And that's really the only place you should be using the experience share. I mean, there's some argument for Pokemon like Geibel himself to wear it, just to get a little more experience, but again, he could be running better things, right? So for the most part, it's really just going to be relegated to those supporters who can't deal damage. So the Wigglytuffs and the Eldegosses. Again, I put Mr. Mime kind of in his own category as a supporter, just because he can deal so much damage on his own. But anyway, guys, that's it. That is going to be the tier list for held items. We're going to go quickly into battle items, but if this is all you wanted to see, let me know what you guys think. And leave a comment what you guys think about the best held items, or if I got any of the held items wrong. Real quickly, let's jump into the battle items. This won't take very long. So first and foremost, the eject button. It's S tier. Like, it's going to be the best held item in this game for 90% of the Pokemon, right? So really the only Pokemon that shouldn't be running either eject button or X speed, which we'll talk about next, are going to be Pokemon that have movement-based moves that can allow them to engage or get away from a fight, right? So eject button is really for any Pokemon that doesn't have a move that can move them faster. So Pokemon like Crustle with Shell Smash, Machamp with Submission, Lucario, all these Pokemon that have moves that allow them to dash or just run faster, they don't need the eject button. But for pretty much everything else in the game, they do. Now, I will say that eject button is slightly better than X speed, for example, because even though it has a 5-second longer cooldown than X speed, eject button just gives you additional value for the vast majority of Pokemon, because it can do things like teleport you through a wall, teleport you through a Mr. Mime barrier, teleport you through a Snorlax block. And because of that extra value, it is going to be better overall, in my opinion, than X speed. But X speed is going to be better for a very small subset of Pokemon. A great example being Snorlax. Snorlax, since he's tankier already, he can get extra value out of that X speed and his heavy slams than he would be able to get necessarily out of the eject button. But for the vast majority of Pokemon, eject button is just going to be ever so slightly better than X speed. Now, for those Pokemon that don't need X speed or eject button, I'm going to go ahead and say X Attack is probably the way to go. We'll go ahead and throw that in B tier. So X Attack for Pokemon like Machamp, Pokemon like Crustle, they can get away with just dealing more damage, and they should. They should, because again, you have Submission, which is such a great mobility move. Shell Smash, great mobility move. So being able to get extra damage out on Machamp is fantastic. So again, for those Pokemon that do have extra mobility, most of the speedsters included, Zeraora has Spark. If you're running a build that does have mobility, go with X Attack to make sure you can score a couple extra kills. The next one that we're going to talk about, though, here is Potion. Also, the first battle item you get is horrible. It's really bad. So you're pretty much always going to be better off, and even though it only has a 30-second cooldown, you're almost always going to be better off with X Speed or Eject Button for survivability. Being able to just teleport or move out of the way is, in MOBAs, so much better than healing a teeny tiny bit of HP. Potion just doesn't do enough, man. Like, maybe if the devs come back in and make this a hyper potion instead of a standard potion, because the amount of healing you get out of a potion is so incredibly paltry that it's basically a useless item. So please, please, please don't run Potion. All right, and that kind of goes with full heal too. Now, I know that Gengar is a menace right now, and you might want to do full heal just to be able to counter his poison. But like, if there's no Gengar in the game, this is basically a wasted slot, because Cinderace's Burn's not that big of a deal. Ninetales Freeze kind of sucks, not that big of a deal. Wigglytuff's Sing, you can just avoid it. Snorlax's Yawn, it kind of sucks. But all of these times, you're just better off avoiding these things and avoiding these situations with mobility, eject button, X speed anyway. So again, full heal, it's a cool idea, but unless we start seeing metas that are super, super defined on Venusaur and Gengar's poisons, it probably won't be a worthwhile item. Same thing goes with Goal Getter, except Goal Getter is a little bit weird. So the way that Goal Getter works is it's going to double your scoring time for a short time. The problem with Goal Getter is it has a 120-second cooldown. So ranked matches lasting only 10 minutes means that you're going to use this a maximum of 4 times per game. And more often than not, maybe just 1 or twice per game, which it's just not enough. Like, yes, it can mean that you can get an extra score in here or there, and that could make a difference in the game, but because ranked games and the way that goals are defended are so heavily defended, and you often end up in lane stalemates, which, you know, is what should happen in high-level ranked games, Goal Getter is just not great. In lower tier ranked or lower tier games like quick play and things, it probably goes up to maybe a C tier, but again, just its cooldown is too bad, right? The fact that you can only use it like three or 4 times tops per game means that it's really just not worth running. You'd be better off running something else like Eject Button, which can get you out of 2 or 3 situations and save your life multiple times. Finally, there's the Smoke here, which I'm gonna go throw it in C tier. There's like Crustle's like one of the only Pokemon that could probably run this to any avail, but like It's going to increase your enemy Pokemon's movement speed, which is okay for something like a Crustle. If he wants to get in, just deal a bunch of extra damage, stop stuff from running away. It's okay on something like a Snorlax because you can slow them down, get around them, and start blocking them towards your team. But like its situations are so niche, they require a bunch of team communication. But it's not bad. Like if you have a team that can coordinate with it, it can do fairly well. So I will throw that in C tier. Same goes with Fluffy Tail. It's only very good on a couple Pokemon like Gengar or a couple others if you really want to focus on jungling early, getting some extra damage out, killing ads, making sure the ads can't hit you. It's okay for those situations, right? But ultimately, you're probably just better off with X attack. So I'll put it in here because I have seen some Gengars run it successfully to help them jungle faster in the beginning because Ghastly's pretty weak early on. So I will give that at least C tier. All right, guys, but that is going to be it. Please, please, please remember, this is a tier list specifically on playing higher level ranked play. So I know that this may look a lot different than some of the websites you've seen or some of the other YouTubers who have not played high level ranked play. But yeah, just keep this in mind and let me know what you guys think. Do you guys think I got anything way wrong? Is there any item that you feel should go way higher or way lower? Now, I know, of course, that for low level ranked play and quick play, that all of these scoring items are so much better. The weight, the cookie, the specs are so much better because like if you can get a bunch of scores in, like a bunch of tiny scores in, you can just snowball the entire game. So I understand there will be certain games that allow you to completely snowball with these items. But again, in higher level ranked play, those are going to be pretty rare, which is why I put those in C tier. But any other things that you guys think I'm wrong or right about, let me know in the comments. And if you guys want to see more Pokemon Unite content, of course, let me know. I would love to make more. And thanks for watching the video, guys. And if you do want to see that content, make sure to hit that subscribe button. All right, guys, that will be the end of this video, though. So I will see you all later and have a good rest of your day. Thanks, everybody.